Joining me now to talk more about President Biden's immigration proposals is David Leopold. David is a former president and general counsel of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Also, he is a partner with the Ulmer Berne law firm. So, David, we've seen some immediate actions from the new president, executive orders on immigration, including the Muslim ban, DACA, and the border wall. So much of this we know is undoing the work of his predecessor. Just the beginning here, but I want to get your thoughts on these actions so far.
Well, look, what we're seeing in the first 48 hours of the Biden presidency is a president that's keeping his promises. He promised during the campaign that he was going to get rid of the foolish border wall project that was a vanity project to Donald Trump's ego. He promised that he was going to put protections in for migrants, that he was going to get to the root causes of the migrations from Central America and deal with it at its source so that we don't have this problem, so that the folks in Central America don't have to flee at some point, that they can live in nations that cherish the rule of law and so forth. He was going to he promised to restore humanity and dignity and fairness and due process to the asylum system, which has been so badly devastated, as the one woman in the interview just said, in the United States over the last 4 years. He promised a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million undocumented aspiring Americans in this country, and sure enough, the bill that he's offered does that. So he is keeping his promises. With respect to legislation, we'll see if the Congress has the courage to fix this broken immigration system, and as the president says, build back better.
And right now, we're still waiting to see what happens to the people involved in all of this. It's still hard to get the images of kids separated from their parents at the border. So, what is happening to those children right now who are being held and their families?
Well, again, the president has promised that these children will not be held in cages, that we're not going to separate. America is not going to separate children from their parents. We're not going to kidnap them and send them elsewhere like we've seen in the last 4 years. Those horrors are over with. That nightmare has ended. And what this administration has promised and what it's begun to embark on through its early executive orders is restoring a sense of humanity to this system, ending the draconian immigration enforcement regime, which tore apart families not only at the border, not only kidnapping children, but tore apart families inside the United States needlessly. It's time for some common sense. And what this president promised and what I'm seeing in the first 48 to 72 hours of this administration is a keeping of those promises. And it's exciting to see humanity returning to Washington.
And David, we don't have a lot of time left, but you hit on a good point a moment ago. Passing immigration law a little bit harder than executive orders. Biden's plans are ambitious, and this has long been a very divisive issue on how to best address it. So how realistic is Biden's proposed pathway to citizenship with concerns from the other side of what they call blanket amnesty and people rushing for the borders?
Well, look, there's been a paradigm shift. And people who talk in terms of, rushing to borders and amnesty, the paradigm is now shifted. America, with this horrible pandemic that the world has been suffering through, and that's in this country was so mismanaged, it's killed 400,000 of our fellow citizens who have stood up and fed America and gone to work and risked their lives. Essential workers, immigrants, undocumented in many cases. These are undocumented immigrants have proved their salt, have stood up for this country. I think Joe Biden, the new president, understands that very well. And they are part not only of a rebuilding, of building back this country better from the devastation of Donald Trump, but they're part of solving other issues. And most importantly of which is the systemic racism in this country. And they're part of the justice pillar of the Biden platform that they talked about just yesterday. Justice in this country, making sure that all Americans, regardless of race, regardless of of gender, regardless of sexual preference, background, religion, and immigration status, are treated with dignity and with fairness. And that's what the opening of this administration is showing.